Hi there. Yeah, I was intending to invite a few people to this, I guess, live stream, and I sent out a few invitations, but for whatever reason, I think they're a little bit late or delayed or behind. So, what this sort of segment is what we're doing is inviting elders and youth from a few nations to join us in a powerful circle of learning, healing, and cultural exchange is what we're hoping. What we really wanted to do was have the youth and the elders come together where the youth could ask questions about various cultures and teachings, and the elders would share their stories, words, and wisdom rooted in the sacred land and traditions. And this is based upon the First Nations people cultural uh, funding that we obtained. And so it was really based upon language. And from my understanding, language is connected to the land. So what we are going to do is eventually here gather, well, first probably gather online, but then eventually gather out. And like if we could get a few people from a few different nations, surrounding nations, and then we could go out on the land and have the youth ask the elders questions. And our hope is that if the elders know their language and are fluent in their language, they would answer in the language. Then we'll create the videos and eventually have subtitles in below. So a little bit of quite a big venture. So we're hoping to at least meet on a monthly basis where the elders lead and teach culture and do storytelling. And it's really a space for intergenerational connection and community healing. So we'd like to introduce ourselves, like what nation are we from? Say, for example, I'm from Nakazli Wuten, and I grew up in Nakazli, like just beside Nakazli, just off reserve in the town. And my mom and dad were Ted and Dorothy Dion, and they moved. We for the first 5 years of my life, or 6 years, it must be 7 years, I lived on reserve, and then my dad Ted bought a house off reserve on 4th Avenue, and he worked in the bush and stuff like that. And I think they both did. I think my mom was a cook, so she helped cook in the camps and stuff. She could peel potatoes like I've never seen anyone peel potatoes before. And my dad, I guess, used to drive a Cat C8 or something, or D8 Cat. Yeah. And so I don't remember him being home too much for those first few years. And then, but my mom was home quite a bit. And then we moved off reserve and lived off reserve for 7-8 years. My mom got sick, and then we had to move out of our home and into a city 2 hours away, which was because I grew up with my cohort in the school, elementary school. And that was a first year I went to secondary school, and yeah, so I kind of first that. But anyways, so that was our connection to the land. Was my dad was mainly working in the bush and the woods, driving Cat, making roads, I guess. And the first memory of hearing or speaking language was basically from my mom. She was very fluent in what is called Dakat language. And I look back and I learned it a little bit in elementary school. The only thing I sort of remember, and probably few people can confirm that the main thing that I remembered was when we cooked bannock, the whole school wanted it. They could smell it, they wanted it, and I eventually ended up always giving away about half of my bannock. And moved away for that 1 year, then I moved back. I was just gone for 1 year, and my dad would always give me $2 a day for my lunch. And at that time, you get like 2 hot dogs, 2 things. And my friend, I guess he didn't have any lunch. So I'd get 2 and 2, and I'd always give him every day. So that's my first memories in elementary school, was learning Dakat language from a teacher. There was a course like that. Then hearing my mom speak it fluently, and with her sisters and stuff like that, and especially at bingo, that's all she wanted to do was knit and go to bingo. And she did that once a week. My dad didn't like it, and I felt bad. That's the only thing she was asking for, and it wasn't a gambling thing for her. It's more a socializing thing, because she used to have a big laugh, and they would laugh and tell stories, and she would in the bingo hall, and we could hear her laugh all throughout the bingo hall. But they would be speaking in what's called carrier language. And what feelings and images, that's what that brings up for me today. And I look back and I regret, speaking Dakat language today. And I tried to learn a different language, and I know a lot more Tagalog words than I do Dakat. And for me, that's a shame, but because like I feel a need to learn another language, and so that's so for the youth, maybe if you're watching this, like, what is one question that you always wanted to ask an elder about the language and traditions? There's quite a few fluent Dakat speaking individuals as I was growing up. I think they're becoming less and less today, but there are still quite a few. I attended a funeral in December, and the majority of the elders that were there were fluent in it. And sometimes the elders don't get along with each other, and so I think we really need to, and that the only way to do that is bring the youth into the picture. And because I think, like, we may be against each other as elders and all that, and feuds and all that, and we disagree with the way that people were raised and grew up and on reserve, and then we hold grudges, and no one's ever really came in to try to reconcile, even within our own nations. And so, but I think we could all agree that if we had a youth in our midst, that we would focus on the youth, and that's what it's about for me today. Although the guest I invited is trying to start a youth program, and like, I don't mind working with the elders, and if she wants to work with the youth, and I'm supportive of that. I was doing that at one time, but it'd be good to understand what are some questions that the youth have about language or traditions, and for our elders, what guidance would they share with the youth? See, it's the elders, they still want to contribute, and the youth want to feel a part of. So that's why we need their guidance. And it's not easy, I believe. Learning. There are some people who are really learning the language. Of majority of languages in Canada are deteriorating. They're becoming extinct all across the nation, except for 3 or 4. But, and I think that with this funding, hopefully we could have a little start to be able to move forward, carry the language forward, and gathering the elders and the youth together on the land and learn the language from the land. So we're hoping that people can share their stories or teachings or ceremonies from their nation, which shows the strength of our people and the beauty of our way of life. I see photos of it on Facebook, on social media and things, and there are a lot of communities that are doing good for the communities and striving to keep their culture alive in their traditional ways of living. For me, it's that's really what we need to do, and we really need to turn back from it to it. Um, the thing that got in the way, I guess, from my understanding, I'm not too sure. It's probably the major thing is the residential schools, but the residential schools didn't come out of nowhere. They came out from a series of policies before that. And so because we survived that, we've been trying to, like, the cultural genocide has been going on for 500 years. But when I see those pictures, those images, and the people trying to keep their culture alive, then that to me shows the resilience. And that's what I learned, is that we as a nation are resilient. So that's why we want to share these stories, these teachings, these ceremonies from the nations, different nations, that show the strength and the resilience of our people and the beauty of our way of life. And today I put a video out. It's all about the opioid crisis. So we're dealing with a lot of drug use and some alcohol use too, alcohol and drug use. And I think those are getting in the way today. And from my understanding, it's the video games as well. So what I think, what we're trying to do is, okay, let's sort of try bypass that. In my model, we need to get into recovery. Then we'll be able to get into culture. We'll be able to look towards the future. When you think about the next generation, what is the hope for the Dakat language or your language from your region? And what's the relationship between elders and youth in our communities? So if you want to be part of this podcast, this ongoing online discussion, that this is the start of it, and we could include people from all nations and learn from each other and grow together. You could find us at www.iwtscanada.org. That's our website. Or you could email us at info@iwtscanada.org. So this is just a short, brief overview of what we're looking to do. And maybe this could be an ongoing discussion from now until the end of this year, beginning of next year, or beyond. And if you have any questions, reach out to us. Any thoughts? And if I were to end with a prayer, I would say, Creator, I ask that you get all the nations, start gathering the nations together, that we start learning our languages, our ceremonies, our culture, our traditional way of living that we had at one time, that we involve the elders and the youth, and that it's a culture, wisdom, exchange of information from the elders passed on to future generations. And this will be able to be the start of it. And I just hope that we would be able to gather together, hear stories from all across the land, all across the nations, and keep our traditions and our cultures alive, especially through the language. They said that if you want to destroy somebody's culture, destroy their language, and that's why we're trying to revive all my relations.